Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, you know who it is, and yes, the Rick Ross review is happening. It's this video, but before we get into that, I have to tell you that the music sharing app Cymbal, which I've been a member of for a while, they have done quite a few sponsorships with yours truly. We are doing an AMA over there. You can ask me anything, any questions you want to ask. We're doing it on the 24th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. People who get push notifications on the app will be notified because they're going to be sending out a push notification when the AMA starts, and it's going to be at the top of the front page of the app, so you don't need to be searching around looking for where the AMA is going to be. It's going to be right there on the front page for all to see, and should be running for an hour. And if you don't already know, Cymbal is a great music sharing social media app where I personally share a lot of the music that I'm reviewing, a lot of the music that I'm not reviewing, personal favorites, so a lot of reasons to follow me over there, get some good music recommendations. And the link to get that app or find out more is on the screen, also down there in the description. I will see you guys on the 24th at the AMA on the app forever. I can't believe she said that. She said that? Yes. You know, that's pretty funny. And what's even crazier, people telling me that I don't use you in videos enough anymore. Isn't that crazy? Yes. I don't even believe that. I mean, you've been doing good over there, right? Yes. Okay, and you're not mad at me or anything? Yes. What? You don't mean that, do you? Yes. Okay, that's what I thought. Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Rick Ross album, Rather You Than Me. Rick Ross, aka Ross the Boss, aka Ricky Rose, he is back with his 9th full-length album right here. If you didn't know, he's a Florida rapper and the founder of the MAYBACH music group label. I have not always, taken him as seriously as maybe other people do, though I have thought that every once in a while Ross is good for a single, for a feature, because for the most part, a lot of the albums in his discography don't really feel like anything to me other than just a grand fantasy in his own head, with Ross constantly painting himself as this totally untouchable kingpin in either the world of music or drugs, which is not inherently a bad main character for an album or a movie or a book or story or whatever, but the details that Ross offers in his verses are usually flimsy and forgettable, based mostly on cliches, and the narratives that turn up in his tracks, there's not really anything in the way of tension, no real reason to sympathize with Ross's decisions or his struggles, because in the end we all know he's going to end up unscathed anyway. He portrays himself with the kind of invincibility that like a 4th grader does when they're playing superheroes. But miraculously, at least for a moment, a sliver of time on this record, that kind of changes. In the past, Ross has made his attempts at trying to write songs that are a little more tender or introspective. I mostly remember him doing this on the album God Forgives, I Don't. Many of these moments on this record, though, I thought fell flat on their face. But Ross's relative struggle on this album over here is actually kind of compelling. At least for a handful of tracks, this is no longer Rick Ross, rap juggernaut, totally bulletproof. I actually feel like we're hearing verses written by Rick Ross the man. Rick Ross, the man that if you cut him, he bleeds. And this is clear right from the buttery, smooth intro track on this record, Apple of My Eye. Love the instrumental on this thing. Super classy hook from Raphael Saadiq. Sweet sax sample, very soulful choral vocals, and very buttery, smooth, kind of atmospheric pianos. And Ross's verses on this track go kind of introspective and personal, ranging from him giving advice to Meek Mill about Nicki Minaj to wanting to grow up to be someone that his mother could be proud of. And you kind of get the implied feeling in that bar there that he has fallen short of that expectation for himself, maybe very short. A lot of emotional pain seems to stem from that. Also, Ross paints in a bit more detail than usual his rags to riches story, reflecting on some of the insecurities that he had before he became the rap icon that he is today. And even talking about having a seizure around the time of the Super Bowl, this is one of a couple points on this album where there are lyrics here that seem to address or make mention of some pretty severe health issues. Again, usually not the kind of thing that's the topic of discussion on a Rick Ross song. I get a similarly vulnerable vibe on the track Scientology, way deeper into the album. Same thing with the track Santorini Grease 2, whose instrumental is one of my favorites on the album as well. Very jazzy, very glamorous. I love the electric piano keys all over this thing. The chimes, the bright horn samples, the female vocal samples as well. It's all pretty gorgeous. That was me being cringy. But then the most interesting track in the first leg of this record has to be the song Idols Become Your Rivals, a 3-verse takedown of Birdman, Cash Money label head, who had a recent falling out with Lil Wayne and many artists on the Cash Money and Young Money Records label. I don't really know personally how much Rick Ross is involved with any of it. He could just be on the outside kind of playing the angles and commenting on it. But given what he says on this song, he does seem to give a lot of weight to the growing rumors that Birdman is two-faced, that he is a backstabber, that he's not to be trusted, and he's been ripping off the artists, especially the biggest artists who he's had under his wing. Now after this comes a trio of just hard-nosed, relentless bangers. It is Rick Ross, that is to be expected. The song Trap, Trap, Trap goes over better than expected despite its annoying title and its kind of repetitive hook. That wild rattling and banging instrumental, I just can't resist. Young Thug's appearance on the track is melodic, it's kind of spastic, and even Wale is pretty entertaining on this track. The last few moments on his verse where he goes kind of a cappella is pretty awesome. The following two tracks, Dead Presidents, Dead Presidents, and She's on my dick. These tracks kind of take it back to the sound of Rick Ross's Teflon Don, but they actually kind of sound new and improved a little bit, with the instrumentals just being way bigger, way more dense, way heavier, and Rick Ross's performance on these tracks, I mean, God, he's a wild man. Did I hear my sound, and I go to the round. He's turned up to 11. All the cylinders are firing. I think on Dead Presidents, he talks about coming into the courtroom with a beverage, and he knows the judge, so he has a lot of leverage. And then all like the ad-libbed, woo! That comes right after. It's like so high energy. Future's feature on this track I thought was great, as well as Jeezy's. Like these are not people who usually floor me with their energy on a track, and yet here they did. She's on My Dick, you know, while it is in one respect a pretty gross track, but I did also find the song hilariously raunchy, and you gotta give Rick Ross a break on this stuff, you know, for boiling sexual attraction down to money. I mean, how else is he gonna get laid? With his personality. Now, after this point on the album, I think the record really starts to lose some steam. The beats turn the heat down, they take on a more luxurious tone, and Rick Ross starts recycling flow after flow after flow to keep the track list going. He really just starts falling back into his old patterns. The song Powers That Be, despite a decent Nas feature, is just really smooth and forgettable. Same thing with I Think She Likes Me, and Ty Dolla $ign's performance on this track is just ugh. It's one of the more generic features I've heard him lay down in the past year, which is kind of unfortunate because I know he has way more to offer vocally than what he's delivered on this track. Ugh. And some of the Chris Rock features on this thing, or the Chris Rock intros on this record, you know, I get that he's a comedian, but I hope the stuff he's saying is a joke, because for him to be on the same album that a Nas feature is housed on and be saying, Rick Ross, he's the best MC, and Lord is my witness, he tells the truth. Nobody lies when they say Lord is my witness. You know, I get that there's a lot of fabrication in mainstream hip-hop, whether it be in the lyrics or the music videos or the drama that we see ensue on social media these days. But this is one of many small but annoying examples of moments where Rick Ross goes that extra step to remind you, to tell you, to make sure that you know what I'm doing here is 100% real. What I'm saying is so true. Like Rick Ross has never exaggerated anything on a song. How Ross continues to ignore this, but also spits one of the realest lines that he's ever recorded in his entire career on this album, I don't know. And here it is. Never was a gangster, I just wanted in. No longer could I deny that I wanted a Benz. There are other moments on this album where Rick Ross isn't really lying or anything, but because it's Rick Ross, what he's saying, what comes out of his mouth is just especially An example would be this one line where he's rapping about a pretty chick who resembles Stacey Dash, who he's getting with, but he says in the next line that if it was her, she'd have to kiss my feet and lick my ass. You know, I get it, the insult, the disrespect, but the idea of Rick Ross's ass getting licked gives me nightmares. Or the intro on the song Lamborghini Doors, where he's talking about going to prison to visit Meek Mill, and all the prisoners, they're banging on the glass and they're kicking the doors, and they say he's not allowed in, I guess because everybody's going crazy. But then 2 weeks later, he's got access. Maybe because everybody's calmed down, nobody's going at him, and he seems to kind of imply that that's because Meek Mill is now kind of running the place right now because he's wearing yellow designer shoes, and maybe everybody's just kind of like chilled out, listening to him rap. Now this story, I'm not totally sure if it's true, but Rick Ross seems to overlook that maybe the prisoners were angry with his appearance because he used to be a CO. Sadly, the rest of this same track is filled with the same kingpin gangsterisms that are so cliched at this point in Rick Ross's discography that just throw this song on the pile of all the other tracks that read exactly like this, I guess. You know, I get that Rick Ross's songs are supposed to sound like you're just taking a really big, luxurious bath in an incredibly expensive bathroom, but you know, it's all still pretty wash, rinse, and repeat. Then we have filler features in the last third of this thing with Dej Loaf and Skrilla that are really forgettable. I mean, Loaf's feature on the track MAYBACH 5 make for two of the sleepiest minutes on the entire record. And Summer 17, while it is a loud, angry, epic banger, there's nothing really about this song that brings any sense of closure to this album. It's just kind of, you know, another loud track that could have fit shoulder to shoulder with Trap, Trap, Trap and Dead Presidents. You know, this album probably kicks off better than most of the records in Ross's discography, and if you assembled all the great tracks on this thing, I think this is most likely the best thing he's released since Teflon Don. But still, around the middle point of this record, things fall apart, with one lackluster track after another and the same lack of imagination that keeps Rick Ross from making incredible albums. You know, overall it's decent, but you know, nothing more than that, in my opinion. I'm feeling a light to decent 6 on this thing. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best. You're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe. And please don't die. Just stay alive and keep watching the reviews. You're the best. Rick Ross, rather you than me. Other links and videos next to my head you should check out. Subscribe to the channel, official website too. Forever.